Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Department Podcast. I am Stephen Bologna, joined alongside the great Stephen Clark, Jesse Norman, and Dante is here for his second episode with us. We have a lot to get to tonight. We're going to be discussing the NBA draft, and we're recording this about 24 hours after, so we have a lot to get to with that. Also, a couple trades have gone down with a couple of All-Stars over the past couple of days, and there's a lot of rumors of two superstars potentially being moved to both of the New York teams. But first off, how are we doing today?
Doing good. Doing good.
A lot of basketball. A lot of basketball.
Man. I had a lot of fireball before this, so I'm ready to go.
Ready to spill some crazy takes, Dante?
I haven't talked basketball in so long. I'm so happy about this.
It's like 4-point right here.
Love it. Oh, this is classic 4-point play here.
Classic 4-point play.
All right, so we're going to save the draft for in a little while. We have a lot of trades that have gone down over the past couple days. So let's start off with the Suns make the splash move of trading for All-Star Chris Paul, trading him for Kelly Olynyk, who's now on the Warriors, or projected to be, Ricky Rubio, who's now on the Timberwolves, Ty Jerome, and a 2022 first-round pick. Jesse, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Give me your thoughts.
I mean, I think this is the Suns trying to guarantee that they're going to be in the playoffs. And they've said numerous times, Devin Booker said, a couple years ago that he was tired of losing. Even though they went undefeated in the bubble, they couldn't get in. I think, OKC is probably going to take a step back again this year with Chris Paul not being there and fall out of the playoffs. And then you have some teams that are rebuilding and everything in the West. So there's going to be, and obviously the Rockets, if they trade James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they're going to be falling out of the playoffs. So two spots potentially open up, and Phoenix wants to be one of those. They're also taking him from Oklahoma City, where he would be benefiting them. I feel like maybe the Thunder could have gotten a little bit more for Chris Paul, but we'll see because it depends on the deal with the Golden State Warriors and what they get in turn for Kelly Oubre. If they flip him for, 2 first-round picks, then they basically got 3 out of this deal. But I think it's a good move for all teams.
Yeah, I really like the move for the Suns. I like having that veteran presence there in Phoenix. I feel like they were missing someone like that. And plus, it adds to your guard depth to begin with. And Chris Paul proved last season that he's not washed up and he still has a lot of talent left in his system. He's not this old guy that everybody thought he was. He carried the Thunder to a playoff spot. So I really, really like this move. I like the Suns too. I'm a big fan of Devin Booker, and he has someone to guide him now. And hopefully they'll probably squeeze into the playoffs around 6 to 8 seed probably. But good for them. I'm happy for them.
So worth noting too this year that 7, 8, 9, and 10 all have a shot at the playoffs. They're doing that little play-in series for those guys. So even if the Suns finish 10th in the West, they still have a shot. It's any man's game at that.
Yeah,
and they have Chris Paul, who's one of the most clutch players.
Yeah. Also, Devin Booker scored 70 points once. I feel like that does not get stated enough. And the fact that he's getting a little bit of the workload taken off him because of Chris Paul is nothing but a plus. I think we're burying the lead here is the Kelly Oubre trade to Golden State because of the whole Klay Thompson torn Achilles situation.
Yeah.
I do like that lineup, and we'll talk about it once we get into the draft part, but I do like that lineup that Golden State's trying to make in spite of Thompson's injury there. And it's a Western Conference deal. A lot of these kinds of trades happen all the time, and you just see a bunch of these key players move from the team to team. But I do like the compositions of the teams now that they're all a little settled. And Ricky Rubio Minnesota too, which is great.
Oh my, poor guy can't escape it. But listen, I like the deal for the Thunder at least. For the Suns, I mean, yes, you're upgrading at the point guard position, but you're not guaranteed winning a championship. You're probably going to be a first-round exit again. So you're giving up a lot just for that. But again, if this appeases Devin Booker to stay, I mean, that's literally your future right there. And you have a good trio there with Paul, Booker, and Ayton too. So,
yeah.
But I honestly did not expect. I thought the Bucks were going to go hard at Chris Paul. But
and I think that plays into the next thing that we're going to talk about, where I felt like Milwaukee lost out by not getting Paul. So in turn, they had to do something a little drastic.
Yes, and
Yeah.
moving on to that, Jesse, Jrue Holiday was traded to the Bucks from New Orleans in exchange for Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and 3 first-round picks, along with 2 pick swaps. George Hill probably a buyout candidate, but this is the splash move that the Bucks made. That we all knew they were going to do something to try and keep Giannis there. And Dante, I'll go to you for this one. What are you thinking?
It just feels like any time that it's the superstars last year of the contract, they try to get some big name player as a chance to, like, if Giannis knows that he's gone or knows that he's going, he's already like out, like he's gone. If he thinks that he's not going to be part of Milwaukee long term, like he's made up his mind. I don't think winning a championship this year matters, and we've seen that too with Kawhi Leonard winning a championship with the new team in Toronto and then packing ass and moving over to Los Angeles the year after. It makes the Bucks better. I think Jrue Holiday had a great year. He was one of the most coveted trade pieces, in this offseason here. But I don't know if it's enough to get the Bucks over the hump in the East, and that's the whole thing. You got the Nets coming back with Kyrie and KD and potentially James Harden now. Like God knows what they could do, and the Heat coming off of what they had, they still have most of their core there. It's going to be tough for the Bucks. You can never really, again, 2 straight disappointing playoffs exits. You never know with them.
Yeah, Dante, I 100% agree with that statement.
Thank you.
It's a great move. They gave up a lot for him with the 3 first-round picks. That is a lot. We can't overlook that. That is a lot to give up for a guy. But he is worth the picks and the guys they gave up for him. But it's a great move, but it doesn't get him over that hump. Like you said, Dante, the Nets, the Heat, Sixers are still viable. The Raptors, they're all very good teams that I still think could eliminate the Bucks from the playoffs. So it's a great move. It adds great point guard depth or whatever now. So you have a nice solid guard there. You have him, you have Giannis, you have a great team there, but I don't think it's still enough to get them to a championship victory.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it gets them a championship per se, but I don't think it necessarily has to. I don't think this year was championship or bust for Giannis. He's said numerous times, as long as the Bucks want to be good and keep proving that they want to be in contention, then why would I leave? So this shows him more than anything, the Bucks want to win. They want to put a good team around him. Considering everything they've been given and, what he's turned into, and since he's been this MVP candidate, I don't think you could say that they haven't built a team around him. They went out, they got Brook Lopez. They've tried to flip things to get as much as they possibly can around him. So I think this proves even more so that they want to win a championship. They want to keep Giannis. And if you have to do this trade to ensure that Giannis is going to stay, which I think he will, even if they don't win the finals, even if they don't make the finals, I see him taking that Supermax extension. It's worth it.
Yeah. This is a Bucks team that I believe they were first in the East
Yes.
at the end of the regular season, and that's with Eric Bledsoe at the helm there, point guard. So now you got a really big upgrade with Jrue Holiday and one of, if not the best defensive point guard in the NBA, 2017 and 18 all first team defensively. Again, this is probably a move just to try and put them over the edge. It is an upgrade. We all thought Chris Paul was going to be the one that they were going to target. It is also worth noting a couple hours after the trade, the Bucks struck a deal with the Kings for Bogdan Bogdanovic in exchange for Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, and a pick. I'm not sure you guys at Edge
That
came
trade
in
has fallen through.
but I thought I saw something today that it went through. I thought Woj put something out.
I'm
So
not
that's why
sure.
I'm
The
not-
last I seen that, I thought it had said that it was not, and that the Bucks were then in exchange waiving Ersan Ilyasova, but I'm not sure.
That might have been what I saw, but that could have been a really good move for the Bucks there. But I'm not sure why Bogdan declined the trade, and not exactly sure his feelings there in Milwaukee, but good move here by the Bucks to go and get Jrue Holiday.
Definitely.
Jesse, I'm gonna get you excited here. James Harden, you're wearing the hat. James Harden reportedly requesting a trade to the Brooklyn Nets to be paired with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I mean, is this potentially making the best team ever assembled? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if this were to go through on paper wise, this would be the most talented team of all time, or at least on the top 3 alone. You would have 3 top 15 players in the NBA. I don't know if it's going to go through. The longer it takes, the kind of more I worry about it. I don't know who realistically offers a better package than Brooklyn. Regardless, James Harden said he wants to go to Brooklyn. And as far as I'm concerned, after everything James Harden has done for the Houston Rockets, making them viable while a dynasty is going on, I think you have to own up to what he wants more than anything. I think you should respect his wishes and send him where he wants to go.
Yeah. I guess I agree with that. I don't know. It's a very tricky situation just because, yeah, he wants to go there, but like you said, Jesse, the longer this goes on, the longer I just feel like he's just gonna stay in Houston at this point. He doesn't want to be there, and you can't blame him for not wanting to be there. They're not very successful when it comes to the playoffs and all that stuff, and they usually don't have a winning mentality right now. They don't have a championship team at all, with Westbrook also wanting out. But I don't know. It's just very tricky. I'm seeing the Sixers now. I'm seeing the Celtics had a word in with him too. It's just everyone wants a piece of Harden, and Harden wants to go. It's complicated. It's very complicated.
The thing is, I seen a report that said Houston wants what the Lakers gave up for Anthony Davis as a starting point.
Wow.
That, as far as I'm concerned, that's too much. There's a huge difference between James Harden and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is now 27 years old. He was entering the prime of his career, and the Lakers had a bunch of assets that they could have moved. The Nets have a bunch of assets, but Harden is 31, going to be 32. He's not at that level that Anthony Davis is, where you trade for him and he's your centerpiece for multiple years. You trade for him because your championship window is 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
this isn't a centerpiece for the next 10 to 15.
You want to win now. I agree. And if the Nets already have a stacked enough roster too, and adding him almost secures a ring on their finger at this point.
Yeah, but if that's what the Rockets want to start at, nobody's going to give that up. No. They're going to start wasting his trade value. And then let's say in a year time, he's only got 1 to 2 years left on his deal. He's now 32 going on 33. That value can tank a whole lot.
Yeah.
So this was on my tweet because I'm off from work this week. I said one of the things I wanted to do this week was figure out if I like the idea of James Harden on the Nets. And it's not necessarily do I like the fit, do I think that they're going to win a championship? Because I think it's hilarious that he's going to go and ring chase after he physically brought his people to Houston to try to ring chase, and he couldn't get that done. So now he's going to ring chase elsewhere. I think that's hilarious. I'm not a James Harden fan by any means, if you can't tell by the sarcasm in my voice. Him on the Nets just seems like Kyrie's going to have to play the third man wheel, and the great trios that we've seen, like the big threes that we've seen the last decade or so, we've had a clearly defined third man who was fine being the third man. You look at Chris Bosh, you look at Kevin Love on the Cavs, you look at Draymond Green over in Golden State, and even once Kevin Durant got there, Klay Thompson fit that role of that three-man perfectly fine. I don't think Kyrie is that accepting or that willing to play that third wheel spot. Again, there were reports out that Houston wanted either Kyrie or KD along with some other stuff. Again, yeah, obviously
it's a non-starting point.
It defeats the purpose too of why Harden wants to go there.
I think it's completely asinine. I want to see it happen just to see what kind of chaos would ensue. But as in terms of a championship team, I'm skeptical. I'm more skeptical than people were, I think, in 2010 when Bosh, Wade, and LeBron went to the Heat, and people were like, "Oh, there's not enough basketballs for all of them," and then they made it work 4 straight years. Because their championship window in Brooklyn is a lot smaller than LeBron's was in 2010 when they made that big three. It's just a bunch of question marks, but I would love to see the world burn, so why not send them to Brooklyn?
And the point of view, I want to look at this from is is, as a fan's perspective, obviously you want the ring, but are you willing to sell that ring for 6-7 years of your future potentially? Because Jesse, you say that Houston wants a major package from them, so you assume a lot of draft picks. And we saw what happened the last time the Nets made the major trade. And I'm not comparing this by any means. We saw the Celtics build their current roster through those picks. So Jesse, I'll ask you this as a fan: you're fine with trading that? So let's even hypothetically one ring for potentially years in the future gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as long as you're not like a dynasty in the NBA or the NFL or the MLB or whatever sport it is, if you're not a dynasty and you're not one of those major market players, you don't know when your championships are going to come. If you're not the Lakers, if you're not the Yankees, you don't know how good your team is going to be at any point in time. So when you have a chance to go for it, you go all in. There's no other way around it.
Especially when the organization doesn't have any rings to begin with. I think once you get that first once you get that first ring, you're in a different echelons of teams in that situation, and that you can say, oh, we won a championship 2021, 2022, whatever. And then if you have these core guys in your system, it might not just be that one ring. You might have 3 or 4 by the time these guys are done. So I think it's worth it as of right now to make this trade.
Yeah, you start to establish a championship pedigree. Yeah. Like, people still want to go to the Celtics, even though most of their titles were won like in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
It's cool too for the Nets that like 2 years ago they were built on this, like, we built this team from the ground up, and now they're like on the cusp of a championship because of players that they dragged over through trades and free agency, which is kind of sick.
Yeah.
It's the duality of man,
Yeah.
If this trade does go through with James Harden, this will be a fun team to watch. I mean, 3 top 15 players in the league, NBA legend, first year head coach, Amari Stoudemire on the sideline as well with Mike D'Antoni. So it'll be fun.
I'm just now thinking of Steve Nash and James Harden sharing a sideline together. The ghost of playoff disappointment, past, present, and future. Like, I didn't think it would get better than Mike D'Antoni, Chris Paul, and James Harden. But the fact you have the only MVP who's never been to a finals coaching James Harden, yeah, send that trade through.
Yeah,
send it through for peanuts. I think that'd be hilarious.
The Rockets also do have another superstar that did request to trade out, Russell Westbrook. He wants to find a new home, and Adrian Wojnarowski reports that only the Charlotte Hornets and the New York Knicks are the only 2 teams of any type of interest.
Well, and I think you can count Charlotte out now after the draft, considering they just took their point guard. They already have Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham and Malik Monk on their roster.
Yeah. And the other team that you mentioned, Steve, there was the Knicks. And I think he will go to the Knicks. And I think he will make the Knicks even worse than they are now. Because he is a toxic person.
No.
A toxic personality. Yes.
No. I think you're really underrating how bad the Knicks are.
I know Knicks are bad, but I feel like he was going to just demoralize this team. I think he's going to tell them they're crap and they're still going to play like crap.
How?
He can't make them worse in the win-loss record. Like, he can't. They have to become a better team with Russell Westbrook.
Listen, people in Houston wanted Russell Westbrook last year.
Yes.
They clamored for him, and then he was on their team, and James Harden could not do anything with his hand-picked right-hand man. And now the city of Houston wants to run Russell Westbrook out with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
All right? For what reason? God only knows. He was a better MVP candidate than James Harden was. Even the year that James Harden won MVP, Russ probably should have won it over him. Russ I think is a better player. I think he works a lot harder than James Harden.
No.
Westbrook
can't shoot. Russell Westbrook can't shoot.
I don't like Harden.
James Harden is the unquestionable better player.
I agree, Jesse.
If you look at 2017, 2018-ish, when Russ just had himself on Oklahoma City and he brought that team to the playoffs with nobody, if you put James Harden in the same situation, he would have been a 500 ball club.
I mean, James Harden's also pushed a dynasty and probably should have beaten them by himself with Chris Paul.
Couldn't. He absolutely.
And Russell Westbrook couldn't get out of the first round. And he couldn't get out of the first round even when
And
he
again,
had
the
Paul
Rockets
George.
team was built around James Harden too. Russell Westbrook just kind of fell in as the last remaining part of
it didn't fit. But I think him to the Knicks works. It makes them watchable.
That's true.
Which they're not as
Yeah.
of right now.
Listen, it is. They
as
are
an expansion,
watchable.
If it depends on the price. It depends on the price. If you're trading away Julius Randle, like Frank Ntilikina, and then like throw in Kevin Knox and maybe a protected pick, sure, why not? Go
But
ahead.
we know that
if
Houston's not
Houston's
gonna
like
accept that.
if Houston's like we want 2-3 first round picks, you hang up the phone. There's no
Exactly.
like I don't think Houston understands in the long run. Like the report about we're okay with getting uncomfortable. We're okay with making our star players come here even if they don't want to be here. The only thing that they're damaging long term is one, their own organization's reputation, and two, the assets that are available right now. Because right now, James Harden and Westbrook are going to be worth the most because it's the offseason. They can get in with the team, they can practice, and they can start right away and make an impact right away. Trade them mid-season, that's another year off their contract, which, I mean, for Westbrook might be actually better. But they can't integrate into the team as well. Houston, in the long run, is just hurting themselves by doing this.
Also, can we talk about the? I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
Dante, it's all you, buddy.
The fact that the Knicks stockpile power forwards like an episode of Hoarders, and the Rockets play small ball almost exclusively, I don't think any trade kind of works for them, right? For Russell Westbrook, what are they going to give up? The Rockets don't want any power forwards; they want small guys.
Luckily, both Bobby Portis and Taj Gibson are off the team. Finally, they've got their options declined. But if I'm the New York Knicks, I don't trade for Russell Westbrook. Yes, okay, get me to a 6 seed, maybe, or 7 seed in the East.
Whoa. We don't know about that, but they at least make them watchable.
Yeah, watchable. Okay.
Watchable.
In contention for playoffs, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Since 2013, since the last Knicks playoff berth, it has been rebuild mode. So that's 6 or 7 years the Knicks have been rebuilding. I am not risking starting over from scratch. When you trade for Westbrook, get rid of those assets. In 2 years, when he's untradeable, you cut him or you do whatever with him. He's not on the team anymore. You don't have the assets anymore. And here we are, back to square one. The Knicks, the moves they're making, it is getting somewhat better, even if it's a little bit better. However you want to think of that, at least in my opinion. Yep. But I don't see trading Russell Westbrook for the value that Houston's going to put him at. I think they're going to ask for at least one of the two of R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, two of your staples in the Knicks organization.
Yeah, no, that's a non-starter. As far as the Hornets go to, if they were interested, you throw in one young asset that has some sort of upside. You don't trade away Barrett, you don't trade away Robinson because those guys are established. They're gonna be in the NBA. Like they're gonna have 10 to 15 year careers. You trade away like a Malik Monk who hasn't really worked out in Charlotte, or you trade away like Terry Rozier who has talent, but obviously like he's not that much of a winning basketball player, or you send a really protected first round pick. But whatever Houston is asking for is double, almost triple of what they actually can get. And with Westbrook, the longer they wait, it is definitively going to get worse. The trade market is definitively going to get worse because no team that is a contender and is like at the midseason point, at the trade deadline point, is going to be like, you know what this team really needs? Russell Westbrook. That'll really put us over the edge. The only one that wants it would be the Knicks or Hornets to make them into the playoffs. Like they want to get to the playoffs. That's why you get Westbrook. You don't get Westbrook to try to push your team over the edge because Westbrook makes good teams worse, but he makes bad teams very watchable.
If I'm the Knicks, I just don't see the mindset of trading away 7 years of hard work, whether put good talent on the floor or not, for those 2 years of somewhat success, which is not even success because you're not going to win a ring, just for 7 to even maybe 10 more years of a rebuild. So even the Hornets too. I mean, Charlotte's been doing this for a while now. They drafted arguably the best prospect in the draft, which we're going to get to. So if I'm any of these teams, I'm not even touching Westbrook with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah,
it's just me. That being said, a couple more just smaller news that came out a little while ago. Gordon Hayward opted out of his $34.1 million player option with the Celtics.
Apparently, him and the Knicks is a foregone conclusion.
I was gonna say that. I was like, this is who the Knicks should go after.
Yeah,
this is the guy you go after. Screw Westbrook at this point. This is the guy you go after.
Is he trying to turn New York red from the inside? Because that ain't gonna work.
The guy's gonna be screaming on his off days. He's gonna be hurt.
I want to know. I need to know what kind of contract that the New York Knicks have tampered with for Gordon Hayward, because he just declined $35 million.
I wish I could do that, right?
Are the Knicks going to offer him like a 4-year, $100 million contract?
I think they're to give him a max. I really do.
Oh,
the only way this makes sense is if a team has already agreed to give him less money in the 1 year, but give him like a 2-year $60 million or like a 4-year $100 million. That's the only way this makes sense, is for long-term savings. He makes more money.
I'm thinking with Hayward, because of his injury a few years back, that he's looking for longevity more so than like money value. And again, if the Knicks are going to give him a long-term deal, which they're probably able to, then why not go there and at least secure your future for probably the rest of your career?
Yeah, not only is injury a couple years
bad
back,
contract to
but
take on.
He got injured this year too. Let's not forget that one too. He
gets injured every year. He gets injured every month.
Very injury prone. So it's a risk. But if I'm the Knicks, I'm taking this risk. This is a risk I'd be willing to take. Steve,
if I'm the Knicks if I'm the Knicks and I get Gordon Hayward, there's absolutely no way I'm not also trading for Russell Westbrook. Because what's the point of getting Gordon Hayward if you're not going to be win now?
Yeah.
Because the only reason teams were interested in Gordon Hayward in a trade is because he's not worth that money whatsoever, but he's a solid player. He can help a team out, but he's not helping a team like the Knicks.
No.
I think if maybe the Knicks try and honestly, I really can't see the Knicks offering a multi-year deal. I think maybe they play it off as, come get a fresh start in New York. We'll give you 1 year, $27 million, something along those lines.
There's no way.
We'll give you a good amount.
There's no way.
Probably not.
He walks away.
But if I'm the Knicks, I'm avoiding this move and going and throwing the bag at a guy like Fred VanVleet. I don't see the point of 4 years, $100 million for a guy that has not been himself since he got to Boston. And obviously that's due to injury, not his fault, but it's just not a good move. Stay away.
Yeah, well, and at this point in the NBA too, Hayward's, with his fleeting athleticism, is at best like in the 3-4 spot. He's at the 3-4 spot. And who did the Knicks just draft? A player who's going to play the 3 or 4 spot and also can't play any defense. So if you have Obi Toppin and Gordon Hayward as your 2 wings playing defense, it's the New York Turnstiles. Like it's going to be like watching when Enes Kanter was there.
Yeah.
Don't remind me. Yeah. But, Jesse, you bring up the draft here. And Clark, by the way, Zoom gifted me free unlimited time. So thank you, Zoom. Lovely.
Thank you, Zoom.
Lovely. So the NBA draft was last night, and all 60 players had heard their name called. A lot of undrafted free agents already got signed. Anthony Edwards did end up being the first overall pick to the Timberwolves. They did not trade the pick. The Warriors stuck with their guns and went with James Wiseman. The Hornets, just so you know, no trades inside the top 10, surprisingly. All those rumors they did not surface anything. The Hornets went with LaMelo Ball. The Bulls pulled out the ultimate wild card, going with a 6th man, Patrick Williams from Florida State. Cavaliers with Isaac Okoro. Hawks with Onyeka Okongwu. Pistons with Killian Hayes. Knicks got Obi Toppin. The Wizards got Denny Avdija. And the Suns drafted Jalen Smith. That's just the top 10. But I want to know you guys' impressions on that top 10. I mean, obviously, the one name that pops out is Patrick Williams. So just hit me with it.
My guy did not start a game in his collegiate career. Not one game. 29 career games in college. Goose egg in the starting five. And he was a top 5 pick. God bless the bag that the Bulls are giving this guy. But why? There were other Florida State prospects in this draft. Florida State was
that were literally better. Literally
year.
better.
Why?
They decided fit over best prospect available, and they went up about 5 picks for him easily.
At least.
I saw Patrick Williams being at the highest was 8 in mock drafts. The absolute highest I've seen him was 8. Nobody thought top 5.
It's like the Raiders every year picking the fastest player instead of like the one that actually worked.
I mean, the Bulls are a really bad organization that I don't think are talked about nearly enough as a really, really bad organization.
Because you look at their career resume and they have 6 rings, and it's more than like almost every team. But it's just Jordan.
It's just Jordan, but we're always on Cleveland. Like if LeBron isn't born in Akron, like Cleveland's the worst organization like ever. But we still crap on Cleveland all the time. The Bulls are at the same level as the Cavaliers of just dysfunction. Like have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
The Bulls were genuinely awful, except for the 8 years that Jordan was like in his prime. And then like the 3 years that Derrick Rose before his knee got screwed up.
Yeah. It's the Bulls. The Bulls are a bad organization. Even if you really like this prospect, even if you really wanted him, trade back. You could have flipped that. You could have flipped that pick. You could have definitely convinced the Knicks at 8 to switch up to 4 to get Obi Toppin. You definitely could have. You could have just added on 1 extra protected pick and it would have been fine. Yeah. There were so many things you could have done. You did not need to reach like 7 prospects over to get this guy. There was absolutely no reason.
Another pick I'm kind of surprised about is that the Israeli-born Denny Avdia falling to 9. He was projected to go. I thought it was the love fest between him and the Bulls.
Yeah, no, that's where he was projected to go the whole time, was to number 4 or number 5. The fact that the Wizards got him at 9 was a steal. When he was still on the board and the Knicks were on, I thought the Knicks needed to take him. You can make the argument for Obi Toppin. I don't hate that pick because it works with their roster. But as soon as the Wizards hit the clock and he was still on the board, I was like, they should run up the card because, well, I mean, maybe, email it because it's all virtual. But this is a great pick, a top 5 talent that they got all the way at the bottom of the lottery at number 9. This makes them really interesting going into the East this year because they have John Wall, they have Bradley Beal. Now they have an interesting rookie and they have some interesting pieces. So we'll see what the Wizards have. I think they could possibly get back into the playoffs.
Definitely. And the thing with Avila too, like people didn't like learn from Luka Doncic having like pro experience overseas and seeing what he was able to do very quickly into his NBA career, and they didn't want to jump on this guy. Like, this guy was playing at a very high level overseas.
Yeah.
Again, good for our friend Justin Valentovic and the Washington Wizards. John Wall's finally back after his 6-year hiatus due to injury. Bradley Beal under contract until I'm 75 years old. And now they actually have a prospect around them. And again, It's the Eastern Conference. 35 wins gets you the 8th seed.
Definitely.
One pick that I'm a huge fan of is Detroit getting a much-needed point guard with Killian Hayes. Hayes was a prospect to many that were considered arguably top 3. I know Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer was kind of his biggest fan. And this is a Detroit team that is in serious need of rebuilding mode. They made a couple trades last night for some better picks. And Hayes is their guy of the future, and I love it.
Yeah.
Hayes is good. He's a long point guard that's always needed, always wanted. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of develops in Detroit because Detroit hasn't really developed anybody. At least he'll have Derrick Rose ahead of him for a year so he can kind of mentor him there. Detroit really went all in on this draft. They decided they wanted a lot of young guys and young talent, and they ended up with like what three first rounders, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Good for Detroit. It's good for them to embrace the rebuild. I would try to load off Blake Griffin's contract if they can. If they can get any type of asset back for that, that would be great for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we're talking about the guys in the top 10. Are there any draft steals that stick out to you guys?
Oh, Tyrese Maxey for the 76ers, definitely. Getting him at 21, I wanted the Nets to get him at 19. I thought he could have been a pretty good one for the Mavericks as well, since they traded Seth Curry. I think there was a lot of teams that could have used Tyrese Maxey. I would have taken him personally over Cole Anthony, and Cole Anthony went 15. But a good prospect. He played at Kentucky, and most of the guys at Kentucky that go to the league, they work out. And if you can get a Kentucky starting point guard in the mid, or in the early 20s, absolutely. And he fits the 76ers team very well. They needed a backup point guard, or even a point guard who can play over Shake Milton, because Shake Milton's not that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to call this a steal or not, but LaMelo Ball was my favorite player in this entire NBA draft, and the fact that he fell to 3, it's ridiculous. I think that the Hornets were able to get him. If he would have played college ball at a big school, he would have been number 1 in this draft without a question. But nothing against Anthony Edwards or
Kind of
James
his
Wiseman.
own fault that he couldn't.
Okay, but nothing against Edwards and Wiseman. Great players. They're going to be great in the league. But LaMelo is, I think, the most established. He has that professional experience now from playing overseas. And I just think he's going to be right away, he's going to make an impact on the Hornets. Like, the other guys can play good roles on their teams and all that stuff, but LaMelo is going to be put right into the fold right there. And he's taking his team hopefully somewhere far eventually, but not right now. But I like LaMelo. I like LaMelo Ball a lot.
Yeah, Steve, to your point there too, talking about foregoing college to play overseas. RJ Hampton was in the same boat too, going over to play in New Zealand. He got drafted with 24.
Yeah,
I think it was to the Bucks, and then he got traded to Denver.
yes,
And fits right in with the Nuggets organization there. I liked RJ Hampton. I think he was one of the top prospects. We were talking about this class a year or two ago. So
Then
good
he went
for him.
overseas.
And he went overseas. And for whatever reason, people are hesitant to pick overseas now. Again, Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP this year. Like, why are we so hesitant about this? But yeah, good for RJ Hampton.
One pick that I absolutely don't understand and thought it was so dumb. The Suns at 10 drafted Jalen Smith when Devin Vassell was on the board. They just gave up Kelly Oubre. They just gave up Kelly Oubre. And they got a backup center at number 10. Like, you drafted DeAndre Ayton. Why did you spend a top 10 pick on a backup? Like, I think it was, there were much better prospects on the board at the time. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, well, it's a really big drop off to the next guy. Tyrese Halliburton, Kira Lewis, Naismith, Cole Anthony, literally all of them better prospects than Jalen Smith. I don't get it.
I want to highlight a few second-round picks I just think are funny or just a little like quirky out there. Nico Mannion getting drafted to the Warriors is literally Steve Kerr drafting himself. Just this shooter from Arizona, just wants to be part of the team. Like, good for him. Sure.
He's hanging out. Yeah.
Also, the two Cassiuses that were like highly touted going into last season's college season. Cassius Winston got drafted 53rd and Stanley 54th. That's crazy because they were supposed to be really highly touted, and then like their seasons just kind of fell apart. I like them too. Also, Kenyon Martin's son. Shout out to Kenyon Martin Jr. Drafted 52nd overall by Sacramento. It's crazy. The first overall pick in the year 2000. His son is now in the league.
Crazy. That's crazy.
What the hell?
We're old.
Yeah.
We're old. That's
Jesse, Jesse hit the nail on the head with Tyrese Halliburton. falling to the Kings at 12. I mean, this is another guy projected top 5 and falls right into the Kings' lap. And Woj reported that the Kings never thought in a million years he would even fall to them. So, a guy that's very lanky and can shoot the three, huge for them.
Yeah, no, I love the Halliburton pick for the Kings. I didn't love him as a top 6 pick, but at 12, he's a fantastic value. I cannot believe he was there and the Suns decided to take a backup center.
Yeah, that's stupid. Plain stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also do want to mention.
Yeah.
Oh, how many good decisions have the Suns made?
Whoever wants to go.
Decade and a half, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're in the position they're in for a reason.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah,
I just wanted to dunk on the Suns. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Dunk on the Suns. I see what you did there.
I'm very happy to report the Knicks did sign Miles Powell too, undrafted.
Yes, yeah.
Huge pickup. That was a really nice pickup.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to be a player that can come in and just play right away.
Yeah. Hopefully he can provide some spark off the bench.
Yeah, and he's homegrown. He's from around the area. He played over at Seton Hall, not too far from the Garden. So I think he's going to be a great fit. I think he might even earn a starting spot eventually, but definitely going to probably start his career on the bench. And I think that's a really good pickup. Very happy for the Knicks with that one. You never know with the Knicks now. They have a couple of their draft picks. RJ Barrett's back. Make a trade here or there. Sneak into the playoffs. Very possible.
Nope. Definitely not.
The Spurs also had a really good draft. Getting Devin Vassell late in the lottery, and then getting Trey Jones at number 41. Trey Jones is a great defender. You don't know how much else is gonna translate with his shooting issues here and there, but he is a top level defender. He's a good playmaker. He has a place, and with the Spurs, I think you can count on them developing Vassell and Trey Jones.
Exactly. He's going from one good coach to another, from Coach K at Duke to Pop. And you saw what the Spurs did the last time. They had like a decent looking prospect in Kawhi Leonard. So yeah, I any pick that goes to the Spurs, you automatically have to give them like a little bit of a watch, because you know what the Spurs could develop them into.
Yeah. Definitely. Can't disagree there.
Overall, very entertaining 2020 draft. A lot of reaches, maybe. A lot of players that slipped a lot farther than we thought. But it's in the books finally. Good to see some sports on TV again, and the NBA coming back on December 22nd.
Already.
Yeah, already. Literally.
Feels like the Heat just got smacked last week in the finals, but nope.
No, it's felt long for me. It's been so bad with even hockey. Like once hockey went down, I'm like, wow, there's less sports, and then baseball, and then basketball. It's like,
yeah, it did go down. So
I have to wait until Sundays, and then
that's good.
Sundays happen.
And Thursdays today too. You got a game on right now.
Yeah, I'm watching The Office right now.
Oh my god,
great show.
Yeah,
great show. But thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at @department_pod. Stephen Clark, Dante Vacatura, Jesse Norman. Let's have a great night. We'll see you all next time.